Opponents 40 runs. Their earned run average is 5.77 to the opponent's 3.44, and the Mets batting average some 53 points lower than the Cardinals and the Expos, the two teams that they played so far. But they're looking to pick it up behind Brett Saberhagen today.
Saberhagen, of course, acquired from Kansas City, a Cy Young Award winner, two-time Cy Young Award winner. And the Mets have done something that sort of has been expected. They've acquired a shortstop. They're a little bit worried about Elster's arm and a new shortstop coming to the Mets.
That is the big news. Dick Schofield from the California Angels coming to the Mets for Julio Valera and a minor league player to be named later. He is not at the ballpark and not suited up today, however.
That means the Mets, when he does arrive, will have to take one player off their active roster, and it's assumed it will be Vince Coleman, who has been sidelined with a pulled muscle, a hamstring muscle pull that he occurred in back in St. Louis. We're going to be talking with Al Harrison, who is the executive general manager of the New York Mets, about that trade for Dick Schofield in just a moment, right after this message from Federal Express. Years, and he has been acquired for right-handed pitcher Julio Valera and a player to be named later. And we have Al Harrison with us, the general manager of the Mets. And Al, tell us a little bit about why and how.
Well, my great preference, Ralph, would be not to have made this deal. We had hoped that Kevin Elster at this point would be in great shape and have full strength in his throwing shoulder. The simple fact is he does not, and we felt we couldn't wait any longer. I certainly didn't want to trade Julio Valera, who's a fine young pitcher. He's going to go to the California club and probably go in their rotation. And I didn't relish the idea of adding $1.5 million to our payroll, which is already #1 in baseball. But you've got to have a defensive shortstop who can pick up the ball and make the tough play, and Dick Schofield can do that. And he's a veteran, has some speed, and he also can pop it a little bit. Well, he was a better offensive player earlier in his career. He hasn't been quite as strong offensively the last few years, but he's an outstanding player defensively, and that was our #1 concern. And Dick Schofield, of course, the son of a major league ball player, and the Mets will have him on the roster probably for tomorrow night's game. Yes, I'm waiting to talk to Dick now. My understanding is he'll fly in during the day tomorrow and be here for tomorrow night's game. So the Mets with Dick Schofield on the roster, and this ball game about to get underway. And we'll be right back after this message from Macy's. And he is Cy Young Award winner in the American League, now against Montreal.
Quickly, the lineup for the Expos: Delino DeShields, the second baseman, leading it off, followed by Brett Barbary, the third baseman. Left fielder Ivan Calderon batting third. Larry Walker, the right fielder, hitting fourth. Tim Wallach at first base batting fifth. Marquise Grissom, the center fielder, batting sixth. Darren Fletcher, the catcher, hitting seventh, followed by Spike Owen and Chris Haney, the pitcher, batting ninth.
And the first pitch of the game by Saberhagen, a fastball for ball one. Delino DeShields hitting 111 so far this year, 1 hit and 9 at bats. That is in this series. His overall average is at 318. Last year he led the league with 151 strikeouts, and yesterday in the ball game he struck out 4 times. And the fastball is fouled away. 2 balls, 1 strike.
Expos sporting new uniforms, and they look good. There are several teams that have changed their road uniforms this year. Montreal Expos, the St. Louis Cardinals, wearing the blue hats that they wore in the early 60s.
And it's ball 3. Saberhagen behind 3-1. He had some command problems when he pitched against the St. Louis Cardinals, working just 2 in the 3rd innings, giving up 9 hits and allowing 7 runs. And here again, a man who is noted for his control, and again he's behind and he walks his first batter. So Saberhagen working with a runner at first base and pitching now to Brett Barbary. Barbary 2 for 8 in this series, hitting .294 for the year with no home runs and 1 RBI.
That's a strange thing, Ralph. Usually when you change leagues, people talk about adjustments for both pitchers and hitters, but rarely do pitchers have control problems. Of course, this is only his 2nd game But as you pointed out, control problems early for Saberhagen. And throughout the spring, his control was almost perfect.
Well, he has been one of the best control pitchers in baseball history. And having problems right here. Average 1.79 walks per 9 innings throughout his major league career in the American League. That's very low. DeShields a threat to steal at first base. Had 56 stolen bases last year, in spite of not getting on that often. Montreal with 6 stolen bases in 8 attempts, all 6 of them in this series. And that pitch high, they have been successful 6 out of 7 times in stolen bases in this series with the New York Mets. Last year, Montreal led the National League in stolen bases. 1-1 the count to Brett Barberie. 51 degrees at game time. And a quick throw over to first after breaking contact with the pitching rubber. Good play by Murray on the throw. That wasn't too good. Saberhagen, 1 of 9 to win the Cy Young Award more than 1 time. He won it in '85 and '89. Had a birthday yesterday, as well as Wally Whitehurst.
28 years old.
Saberhagen against Canada with a record of 6-8. Of course, he was pitching against Toronto. One of 2 teams that he has a under 500 record against, Toronto and the White Sox.
And the White Sox, the team against which he had the no-hitter last August 26th.
And the fastball fouled away, and the count 1-2.
Could be the mound adjustment. I mean, when you think about it, the only time Brett Saberhagen had ever pitched on a St. Louis mound was 1985 against the Cardinals in the World Series when he was pitching for Kansas City. He was the MVP of that series. And this is the first time he has been at Shea Stadium. So it could be a minor adjustment with the pitching mounds in the National League.
And the 1-2 pitch. Pop foul down the left side. It'll be out of play, and it will keep the count of 1 ball and 2 strikes. He had great success against the Cardinals in that World Series, pitching a shutout the last day. And also he's had success in All-Star games against the National League, a winning pitcher in the All-Star game. Lifetime record 110 wins, 79 losses, his first appearance ever against Montreal. Manuel, Jerry Manuel, the first base coach, and DeShields chase back at first base. 1-2 the count, no one out, 1 man on. We're just underway here at Shea. A light drizzle taking place right now. It's supposed to clear up, and it is getting much lighter here. And a swing and a miss, and DeShields is struck out. Should say Barberie is struck out. DeShields holds at first base. So Saberhagen with a strikeout.
Brett Saberhagen up in the strike zone with his fastballs. Of course, he is not necessarily a ground ball pitcher. He throws high fastballs, a real power pitcher. His best pitch is his fastball. His second best pitch is his straight change. And he says if he's throwing a lot of curveballs, then it's because he doesn't have command of the other 2. And there was the curve right there.
He has a good curveball, as you could see from that one, and it's strike 1. Ivan Calderon, the batter. Calderon, of course, with the White Sox before coming to Montreal, hitting .188 so far this year. He's 1 for 3 in this series. Again, the curve for a ball, and it's 1-1. Calderon hitting .300 for Montreal last year after being traded for Tim Raines. 1 ball, 1 strike. And again, the throw to first.
Along with stealing 56 bases last year, DeShields was also caught 23 times. That's a Montreal Expo record. So his percentage is not real good when he does try to steal.
Short lead at first, and again he's moved back to first as Saberhagen breaks contact with the pitching rubber.
Of course, Calderon, a good hit and run man, a good contact batter. We'll see if Tom Runnels puts DeShields in motion on the hit and run play.
He was caught 22 times the year before. In his 2 years, he's been caught a lot. 1-1 the count. Again, a short lead at first. And the pitch is hit in the air down the left field line. A long run for Gallagher, and it will be out of here. It is a 2-run home run as Calderon gets his first home run of the year, and Montreal takes a lead 2-0.
We talked about Saberhagen being up in the strike zone. You can be up in the strike zone if you're a power pitcher with the fastball, but not with the breaking ball. And certainly Mel Stottlemyre, the Mets pitching coach, knows that. 3 straight curveballs, the first one for a strike, then he missed with the curve, and this is the home run pitch. Front foot for Calderon. And he really cranks it out in left field.
Now the batter is Larry Walker, and he takes for strike 1. Well, that ball has to be live because he was actually out in front of that pitch, and he still took it downtown.
He's a strong guy.
Calderon last year with 19 home runs. And Larry Walker, the batter. Calderon had some problems in the spring, and this one hit right back to Saberhagen, and Walker, who had 3 hits and 9 at-bats in the series, is out for the first time here in the first inning of this game.
He had a bad spring, did Calderon, but the one thing and the one advantage that he has over the other Expo hitters is that he's faced Brett Saberhagen. He came over from the White Sox a couple of years ago, and you remember, Ralph, you said that the White Sox, one of 2 teams in the American League that Saberhagen has a 500 record, under 500 against.
Now Tim Wallach, the batter, and Tim 3 for 7 in this series. Takes the first pitch for ball 1. Wallach with a bad year last year. Average dropping 71 points, the largest drop in Major League Baseball with the exception of George Brett, whose average dropped 74 points. There's a good fastball. 1-2 the count. Wallach with 195 career home runs has moved from third to first, and he has protested that move. And a good curve gets him. 2 strikeouts in the inning, but a walk and a 2-run home run. And after 1/2 inning, the Montreal Expos 2. The Mets coming up, and here's a word from Bud Drive. Strikes Gallagher, 1 for 1 in this series. Hitting .400 so far for the Mets. He came along with Saberhagen from Kansas City in the deal that saw Miller, McReynolds, and Jeffries go to the Royals. Gallagher overall at .400, 2 for 5 for the Mets. And Haney's sinking fastball high in there for a called strike, 2-1. Chris Haney's father, a catcher in the major leagues, and the pitching coach for Milwaukee. So he's had a lot of good guidance as he has grown up. Topped out to the shortstop, fielded by Owen. And 1 away. Owen, one of the shortstops rumored to be a New York Met, but it turned out to be Dick Schofield. The defense for Montreal: Calderon in left field, Grissom in center, Walker in right, Barbary at third, Owen at short, DeShields at second, Wallach at first, and Fletcher the catcher. Willie Randolph now the batter. Randolph in this series has had 4 hits and 8 at-bats, hitting .278 on the year, and he takes ball 1. And the fastball for ball 2, 2 balls and 1 strike. 45th player to play for both the Mets and the Yankees, Willie Randolph. And it's his 14th season in a New York uniform, Yankees and Mets.
2,078 games. He is 8th on the all-time list.
At second base.
At second base, yep.
3-0 the count. And there's a strike. On deck batter for the Mets, Bobby Bonilla, in this revamped roster of the New York Mets. A lot of newcomers. And there's a strike, and it's 3-2.
Hitters don't do it intentionally, but home plate umpires don't like batters going to first base prematurely. And the reason for that is they don't want the fans on them. That ball was clearly a strike, and Willie knew it. He was just trying to entice a premature call, but the fans in an uproar.
Tom Howland unhappy about that, the home plate umpire. And there's another one right there, and Randolph, thinking he was walked for the second time, is called out on strikes.
Those pitches are strikes, though.
They are.
That's a very deceptive move. Willie's saying no, but I think that ball had the 3-1 pitch was clearly a strike. Willie didn't complain about that. It looked like the last one had the ball of the plate. Here are the last two pitches. The 3-1 first. Yep, that ball's high enough and a strike. That's a strike.
Awfully close.
Yep.
And it was called a strike for strike 3, and now Bobby Bonilla takes his first pitch, and it's strike 1. Bonilla 0 for 7 in this series, gets his first hit as he lines this pitch to left field, and Bonilla becomes the Mets' first base runner.
The first Spanish word that I learned in baseball was linea. That was a linea.
Line drive.
That was the first Spanish word I learned and could say on television. Linea.
Well, he
We'll stick with
certainly
linea.
lineaed into that one.
That's
no
a
doubt
linea
about
right
it.
there.
That'll bring up Howard Johnson, who hasn't had a hit in this series. He also 0 for 7. Howard hitting .200 for the year with 1 home run, 5 RBIs. Bonilla not a threat to run. The runner at first base. Mets trailing 2-0, and the first pitch grounded slowly to Spike on. The force play, final out of the inning, and the Mets no runs on 1 hit and 1 man left on, and the score at the end of 1, it's Montreal 2 and the Mets nothing. And here's a word from Shell. Hagan down 2-0 as he works here in the second inning. And the first batter is Marquise Grissom. He takes a fastball for strike 1. Junior Noboa, that smiling face before the pitch. There's Junior.
He's looking at his ex-teammates with Montreal the last several years. He's a delightful fella, isn't he? Great disposition. Keeps himself ready. In baseball since 1981, and he's never been a regular.
He's Noboa.
He's Noboa.
1 ball, 1 strike, and the fastball fouled away. Grissom in this series is 3 for 7. Hitting .300 overall with 6 hits. He led the National League in stolen bases last year with 76. He's had 3 stolen bases in this series. And the curveball.
There's that curveball. You notice when Saberhagen has thrown the curveball from a wind-up position, he really gets on top of it. The curveball that he threw to Calderon was from a stretch position, and he kept it up high.
2-run home run by Calderon, and the fastball gives him his 3rd strikeout.
Let's take a look at the curveball to Calderon for the home run, the 2-run homer. Watch where this pitch is. Up in Calderon's eyes. Now the curveball on which Saberhagen struck out Tim Wallach to end the first, you see where that one is, and there's a reason for that. We'll tell you about it.
Batter is Darren Fletcher. Fletcher in this series 0 for 3. Had his first 3-hit game in the major leagues against the Pirates to open up his season this year. Was with the Philadelphia Phillies last year. He's 4 for 10 so far this year. And that pitch a ball.
Ralph, almost no pitcher that I ever caught had a better curveball from a stretch position than from a windup position. And the reason is they have to have that big leg kick in order to get their arm up to generate the rotation to get the ball down. And to do that, you have to wind up. When a pitcher's from a stretch, he rarely can get the leg kick high enough to get on top of the curveball to make it go down.
One of the reasons you don't see many curveball pitchers who are relief pitchers.
Yeah, that's right. That's a good point. Never really thought of that, but that is an excellent point.
2-1.
Because most relief pitchers, when they come in the game, they have to pitch from the stretch.
Stretch position as that fastball is fouled off. 2-2. Saberhagen with a count of 2-2 to Darren Fletcher. Fletcher last year caught Tommy Green's no-hitter. First no-hitter ever pitched at the Big O by the opposition, and the fastball fouled away, so the count stays at 2-2. Mets will be playing the Philadelphia Phillies in a 3-game series starting Monday night, all night games. And one of the pitchers in that series will be Tommy Green. He'll be going Monday night against Sid Fernandez. And that fastball for a ball.
We'll have that game for you. It's 7:30. We're on the air tomorrow night. First pitch 7:40, and the same thing on Tuesday as the Phillies that were going to be led by Len Dykstra coming into Shea. Now Dykstraless.
And the fastball again fouled off. The Phillies tied for first with Montreal and Pittsburgh with a record of 3-2. Cardinals have a record of 3-3. The Cubs 2-3, and the Mets 2-4. In the National League West, Atlanta on top with San Diego and San Francisco with 3-2 records. And again, the foul ball keeps a count of 3-2. Dodgers are 2-2, Houston 2-3, and Cincinnati 2-4. Everybody bunched pretty much together. No one off and running like Toronto, who Toronto Ball Club has won 5 of their 5 games. And
Same
Oakland.
with the Yankees too.
Yankees 4-0.
4-0.
Yeah.
Yankees off to a hot start. Oakland 5-0. That game last night, Oakland trailing 6-0 and came back to win an extra inning 7-6.
Speaking of last night, how about the Boston-Cleveland game? 19 innings, 6 hours and 30 minutes, and they play a doubleheader today, the only scheduled doubleheader in the major leagues. And that ball hits him. So Fletcher gets hit by a pitch ball on the 3-2 pitch, and a runner on first base with 1 out.
19 innings, the Red Sox and the Indians, and a scheduled doubleheader the first Sunday of the season. That is strange.
And the only one scheduled in the major leagues. That's really unusual.
Well, it used to be in the 154 game schedule. We'd have a doubleheader on Sunday and an off day on Monday.
On Monday, and doubleheaders like on Memorial Day, the 4th of July. And no longer is the picture as Spike Owen steps in. Spike 2 for 7 in this series. And he has to move away from the fastball for ball 1. So Saberhagen again with some command problems. Not really his control that much. It's just the fact that he hasn't been able to locate his pitches that well in his first 2 starts with the Mets.
Look at that career average. As Spike Owen has been a Mets killer over the years.
Big base hit yesterday to drive in the 2nd run of the game against the Mets.
Saberhagen really appears to be uncomfortable on the mound. Eddie Murray out to talk to him.
Spike Owen with that .298 career average. His overall average in the major leagues is a career .241. So he's at about 55 points higher, 56 points higher against the Mets. 1 ball, 1 strike. Good change up there as Saberhagen goes to the off-speed pitch. Spike a much better hitter left-handed than he is right. .210 hitter right-handed, I should say, against left-hand pitching. Two and 1 the count. Montreal leading 2-0 on the 2-run home run by Calderon. That came in the 1st inning after a walk.
There goes the runner, and the ball lined to left. The Mets having played perfectly as Gallagher makes a catch. A throw to first base will be in time, and it's a double play. As Spike Owen lines to left, but the defensive alignment perfect. And a double play is executed to end the inning. The score at the end of 1.5 innings. It's Montreal 2, the Mets nothing. Here's a word from Chemical.
On the play, and Spike Owen hitting a ball that for normal hitters would be in there, but Dave Gallagher, as Ralph explained, playing Owen perfectly, and a strong throw to first doubles up Fletcher. I think Jeff Torborg having Saberhagen pitch to the defense. Gallagher was over near the line. The fastball hit hard, but a double play.
And the leadoff batter for the Mets, Eddie Murray, goes after the first pitch here in the second, pops it up to the second base side. DeShields making the play. Murray 2 for 6 in this series, hitting an even 300 before the out with 6 base hits, and that'll bring up Bill Pecota. Pecota batting .250 with 5 hits and 20 at bats. On the mound, Chris Haney, and a curveball for a call strike. We mentioned that his father was a pitching coach for Milwaukee. He has been a pitching coach for Milwaukee. He's now a full-time scout for Milwaukee, as he's been moved out of that pitching coach department.
Phil Garner, the new manager of the Brewers, a lot of times that will happen when a manager changes teams. He'll bring his own bullpen coach and several others with him, as Jeff Torborg did, bringing Barry Foote, Dave LaRoche with him. He hired Tom McCraw as the first base coach and batting instructor, but he kept Mike Cubbage.
Ground ball to third, taken there by Barbary. 2 men away.
Mike Cubbage and Mel Stottlemyre, the 2 holdovers from the Buddy Harrelson regime.
Things have changed considerably with coaches. It used to be that all the managers' buddies were his coaches, whether they were qualified or not. Now they go for the experts at their specific duties. Stottlemyre, of course, has been a pitching coach and has been a great pitcher. Barry Foote, a catcher. Fought for Montreal, as a matter of fact, when Gary Carter, who's on the Montreal roster this year, was a right fielder. 1 ball, no strikes as Elster bats. Elster 1 for 5 in this series, so far hitting .214. And the off-speed pitch, it's called a ball by the first base umpire. No swing, and it's 2 balls, no strikes. In case you just joined us, Elster, because of the fact he's having problems throwing, and the Mets have acquired Dick Schofield from the California Angels to be one of their shortstops. And there's a strike, 2-1. It's going to be interesting how that affects Kevin Elster. Elster's been the regular shortstop for the Mets whenever he's been healthy, and he has been a great fielder. But at the moment, unable to throw up to 100% as he takes ball 3. 3 balls and 1 strike. Schofield due to join the Mets tomorrow. High ball out to right center field. It chases Grissom back, but he's there, and he makes the catch near the warning track to retire the side. So a 1-2-3 inning for Chris Haney, and the score at the end of 2. It's Montreal leading by a score of 2-0, and the leadoff batter, Chris Haney, the pitcher, swings at a fastball for strike 1. Haney batting for the first time this year. And Saberhagen back with a curveball, a quick strike 2. Montreal with a 2-run home run hit by Calderon, leading by a score of 2-0, and the fastball for a strikeout, number 4 for Saberhagen, as he takes Haney down 1-2-3.
Ralph, you were talking about coaches the last inning and how they used to be the manager's friend, and that's certainly true. And nowadays, I think coaches have more autonomy than they used to have. They are certainly not yes men. I mean, these guys really have jobs to perform. It's a very difficult job. But from as far as the brotherhood of coaches were concerned. A great story about the late Danny Murtaugh.
And the fastball this time, and it's 2 balls and no strikes to Delino DeShields. DeShields walked his first time up.
Danny Murtaugh used to have a cadre of coaches that when they used to play hearts, all the coaches were afraid to drop the queen on him. Now that's brotherhood right there.
That's fear of your boss is what it is. 3 balls, no strikes. And it's ball 4. I'll tell you, I played with Danny Murtaugh. He had one of the most subtle senses of humor of anybody I've ever seen. He was a beautiful man. But don't get too close to him because he could spit tobacco juice and hit a gnat from about 30 feet. So DeShields with his second walk. And Brett Barbary will be the batter. Brett struck out his first time up. Saberhagen got him with a fastball. DeShields a threat to steal, and again he draws a throw. You know, Danny Murtaugh led the National League in stolen bases one year.
No, I didn't know that.
Little short, stocky second baseman. Strike 1 the count.
What do you have, 15?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, it wasn't very many. The days when he didn't steal many. 1 strike to count. DeShields very fast. The runner at first, and the fastball high. 1 ball, 1 strike.
Some of those old records, you know, Home Run Baker led the American League in home runs one year with 8.
8, yeah.
Yeah.
Call him Home Run Baker.
Home Run Baker. He had 8 home runs to lead the league. Home Run Baker.
1 ball, 1 strike. And a line drive to center field. Johnson right there, and he hauls it in. And DeShields back to first. So Johnson with the put out, and that'll bring up Ivan Calderon, whose 2-run home run has been the scorer in this ball game. His first home run of the year.
Calderon saw 3 curves the first time up. He hit the 3rd one for a home run. He won't see one for a strike this time. If you're a home run hitter, and of course you were, Ralph, the time you came up after hitting a home run, you didn't look for that same pitch.
I look for a knockdown pitch.
You can't hit those.
And the fastball as he gives up on the curve and gets a fastball by Calderon.
Montreal Expos with a terrific outfield last year. They led the National League in doubles, batting percentage, stolen bases. Marquise Grissom was 76 last year. Got a lot of production from their outfield.
Again, the fastball against fouled off, strike 2. That time DeShields running with the pitch. Now, you would have lost a lot of money betting on what outfield led the league in batting average combined. Yeah. And it was Montreal. Walker coming on to have a great year, hitting .290. Of course, Calderon hit .300. Acquired from the White Sox. 2 strikes to count. A quick throw to first base.
Good time for DeShields to run. You saw Calderon looking at Delino at first base. Count 0-2. If DeShields is thrown out, then Calderon leads off the 4th with a clean slate.
And he doesn't go, and the pitch is taken for ball 1. 1 ball and 2 strikes.
We mentioned the high curveball by Calderon that he got last time.
One-handed it out of here. He has not seen the curveball in this at bat. There goes the runner, and the pitch is a curveball. Did he swing? Yes, he did, and that will end the inning. So the 5th strikeout for Saberhagen. The call made by the first base umpire Jim Quick, and it retires the side. 1 walk and 1 man left on. The score at the end of 2.5 innings. Montreal.
Book for any Mets fans. It's really a beautiful book packed with color photos of all your favorite players and includes a feature on 30 years of great Mets pitching, an organization that has always surrounded itself with great pitchers. To order, you can send a check or money order payable to the New York Mets for $6 plus $2 postage and handling to Mets Yearbook, CN 4777, Trenton, New Jersey 08650, and you can allow, if you would, 4 to 6 weeks for delivery. New Jersey residents, please add 7% sales tax.
And Todd Huntley leads it off for the Mets here in the third. Fouls off a fastball. Huntley has been up once in this series, did not have a base hit. Hitting 111 overall, 1 for 9. On the mound, Chris Haney, who lost his major league job last year when the Mets traded Ron Darling to Montreal. There's a perfect bunt. It'll be a base hit. And it's thrown away, and going down to second on the air by Barbary is Huntley, and the Mets have the leadoff batter on a bunt base hit and on second base on the air.
Where's Delino DeShields? The only thing a second baseman can do here is to play the carom off the tarp. Now look at DeShields in your picture, not going to back up first base. Obviously has no control over the throw. It's an error on Barbary, but had DeShields been about 20 feet behind Tim Wallach, the first baseman, he would have made the carom, and possibly Huntley wouldn't have gone to second base. But as it is, DeShields retrieves the ball, and Huntley's into second easily.
DeShields with a lot of talent, but he had problems last year.
Now watch DeShields. See, DeShields right there in your picture. He's not going over to back up first base. That's really his only play. He's standing there, and now Barbary's throw, which is clearly an error.
And now on the wild pitch, Huntley goes over to third, so he's at third base with no one out. The batter for the Mets is Saberhagen.
Fletcher coming up on the ball, and that's the one thing they teach catchers not to do. You're not going down on the ball. You've seen Huntley so many times in the position he gets in on those balls in the dirt.
So the Mets have a runner at third on a bunt. And this ball is fouled off as Saberhagen goes for the fastball and fouls it off. 1 ball and 1 strike.
Expos played the infield in yesterday in a 1-run ball game in the third inning and got away with it. That was Friday when Ken Hill jammed Willie Randolph. And now they're playing the infield in with a 2-run lead here today.
A little different with the pitcher up. You can understand it a little bit better. But it can open up a big inning. And this pitch is a strike, and it's 1-2. Tom Reynolds, the manager of the Expos, took over for Buck Rogers in the middle of the season last year. There's a fastball for strike 3. So Saberhagen called out on strikes. Second strikeout by Haney, his second call.
Now, Ralph, we'll see if the infield remains in. And it's a bit of a gamble. You see Joe Kerrigan, the pitching coach of the Expos. But, you know, you've got a lot of athleticism around the middle of the lineup, or the middle of the infield. They're dropping back now, but I wonder if they will be back with the pitch.
Well, Buck Rogers used to use that shift. Start the infield back, and they would move up as the pitcher was delivering the ball. They don't do it this time, and this ball sliced foul for strike 1 as Dave Gallagher fouls it off. Gallagher grounded out to short his first time up. Mets have scored only 2 runs in this series. There you see the defensive alignment. The shortstop and second baseman are back. They're willing to give up the run to pick up an out. And Gallagher gets the curveball. 1 ball, 1 strike. I mentioned that Haney lost his job as a starting pitcher and was sent to the minors when Ron Darling joined Montreal in the trade of Darling to Montreal from the Mets. That
was on August the 2nd of last year. Ronnie going over to Oakland and losing his last 7 decisions, but he won his first one this year. Darling 1-0.
And the 1-1 pitch. Let's take it. And it's ball 2, 2-1. When he was sent to the minors, he had just lost to the Mets 4-0. He was recalled in July and pitched a shutout and then was sent back again to the minor leagues. Only second Montreal pitcher to ever be sent back to the minor leagues after pitching a win. The other was Floyd Yeomans, who at one time was a New York Mets. High school teammate of Doc Gooden's. Three and one, the count to Dave Gallagher playing left field. And it's hit out to deep right field. It'll score one run. Walker has a good arm, but he is too deep to throw the runner out. And the Mets get their first run as Gallagher gets his first run batted in for the Mets. And the Mets now are within one.
And that's we mentioned the offense of the Montreal outfielders, and we failed to mention their defense. Larry Walker, even though he's very deep, still gets in the right position to throw just in case Hundley slips down or something like that. But the Mets score a run.
So it's now 2-1 Montreal, and the batter's Willie Randolph, who was struck out his first time up. He held up on the pitch, and that's a ball, and it's 1 ball and 1 strike. Ground ball in the hole, a base hit. Randolph with his 5th hit in this series, and he is on with 2 men out.
Brett Barbary playing about even with the bag at third base and can't come up with this roller.
And that brings up Bobby Bonilla, who had the Mets' first hit his first time up in the first. He takes a fastball. Ball 1. And the toss to first base. Randolph doesn't figure to be stealing. Bonilla with 2 home runs so far this year. He is 1 for 8 in this series. Had been 0 for 7 before his base hit in the first. In the dirt, Randolph holds at first. Fletcher recovering the ball quickly. It's ball 2.
You'll see Bonilla throughout the year giving himself a whack in the head occasionally. And you'll also see that infectious smile of his.
Hope he doesn't forget someday and take a felt hat up there. It could hurt. The 2-0 pitch. Foul back out of play. Bonilla, the first Mets player to ever have 2 home runs in his first game with the Mets.
There it is.
There it is.
There it is. Whack.
Pay attention.
Self a whack in the coconut.
Sort of like when you went to school and those brothers would rap you with that ruler, right?
Tell you about it.
Pay attention. The 2-1 pitch. Ball 3, 3-1.
You got used to it. If you had a parochial education, you got used to getting whacked. You didn't need a bat to hit you in the head. Somebody else did it for you. Now, obviously not in the head. I wouldn't do that. But other parts of the anatomy.
Knuckles included.
Fair game.
Toss to first base and Randolph back. 3-1 to Bobby Bonilla. Second in the National League in runs batted in. He has 7. McGriff leading the league with 9. And McGriff also leading the league in home runs. Fred McGriff. 4 home runs. Bonilla led the league in doubles last year with 44. And the 3-1 pitch, ball 4, and Bonilla walks. That puts runners at first and second. Brings up Howard Johnson.
what the Mets are trying to do in order to, I don't know if it's safe to say win their crowd back, but they were only 28 and 53 here at Shea Stadium last year. 28 and 53 for a team that had been predominantly a winning team from 1984 through the 1990 season.
So Howard Johnson, the batter, he's 0 for 8 in this series. Grounded into a force play his first time up. And it's hit hard to third. A bad hop. It's knocked down. The throw to second is in time, and that will retire the side as Barberie recovered and picked up the force play at second and the inning. But the Mets get 1 run on 2 hits. There was 1 error and 2 men left on. The score at the end, Tim McCarver.
All right, Ralph, I erred when I said the Mets had that dramatically bad year last year here at Shea Stadium. They were not 28 and 53. They were 40 and 42. As Larry Walker swings through a Saberhagen fastball. So they're 0-2 this year. 40 and 42 last year, and last season was the first time under 500 since 1982. That's at Shea Stadium. Even in the year 1983, Darryl Strawberry's first year, they were over 500 at Shea that year.
That year you were talking about might have been 1962.
They won 28 games at the Polo Grounds.
That sounds like an awful lot, doesn't it? 28 to 40? Probably not.
Walker down on strikes. That's strikeout number 6 for Brett Saberhagen. 1 out here in the 4th.
Well, he gets him with a good fastball. Saberhagen, even though he was rocked by the Cardinals, has thrown well in his first 2 starts. It's just been he hasn't had that good command that has made him such a great pitcher. Settling in now after giving up a 2-run home run in the first.
Tim Wallach, the batter. And the fastball for a strike. 0-1. 2-1 Expos here in the 4th inning. 3 hits for the Mets. Only 1 for Montreal, but it was a 2-run homer by Ivan Calderon in the 1st inning. Curve grounded to third. Pacoda. 2 outs.
Checking out the Macy's National League scoreboard. Pittsburgh 3, Philadelphia 1 that game in the bottom of the 4th. St. Louis no score in Wrigley Field against the Cubs, top of the 2nd. San Francisco nothing. Atlanta nothing, top of the 2nd. Cincinnati and Houston getting underway, and later on the Dodgers against the San Diego Padres.
San Diego opening the season on the road. 13 games on the road for the Padres. That's unusual. Usually you have a team in Southern California opening at home because of the good weather there.
Weather, but that's all Houston's fault. Houston with 15 straight games at home to start the season. They'll play 26 and 28 on the road later on this year. Something Montreal did last year, but Montreal had no excuse. As it is in Houston, they're going to have the Republican convention. They have to be out of town when that is on. In Montreal last year, the roof fell in at the Big O, and they had to finish their season on the road. As a matter of fact, Houston has played a ton of games on the road going back to last year. They have yet to be home since about the first week in September.
Actually, LA is in San Diego. So it is the Dodgers playing in San Diego this afternoon. You can imagine the Dodgers and Padres looking at our game on television saying, what do you mean we're playing in LA? Here we are in San Diego. Grissom pops it up, slams his bat down, and Randolph makes the catch. 5 in a row, retired by Saberhagen. And after 3.5, it's 2-1 Expos. We'll be right back after this from Nobody Beats the Wiz. The first game, 1 run yesterday and have scored once today as Anthony Young takes on the chore of catering to the guys in the dugout. Well, it's tough to be a rookie, isn't it?
I didn't read the small print in his contract. The 1 run the Mets have in this game is unearned.
A ball and no strikes. Anthony very cordial to his teammates as The coffee is flowing in both dugouts today. 2 balls, no strikes to Eddie Murray.
Can't even come close to him to the 19 innings they had to play in Cleveland yesterday. That's the coldest stadium in the world. That wind blowing off of Lake Erie.
The mistake by the lake.
Ooh. 6 hours and 30 minutes of baseball there, 19 innings.
2 balls, no strikes. Eddie Murray. 2-1 Expos here in the 4th. Fly ball, center field. Should be caught. Grissom, 1 out. Fans, this game is brought to you in part by nobody beats the Wiz Home Entertainment Centers. For everything in home electronics, music, and movies, nobody beats the Wiz. Also by your tri-state Toyota dealers. I love what you do for me, Toyota. Tim McCarver, Ralph Kiner, happy you've chosen to spend your day with us. Cold, overcast day here at Shea. The Mets trail 2-1, and Bill Pacoda takes ball 1. Bill grounded to third, his first time up. Two balls, no strikes. Keith Hernandez will tell you this story about coffee in the dugout. I was waived to Boston in 1974 and called Bob Gibson the next week. The guy brought up for me as Owen bobbles the ball. An error on Spike Owen. Take a look at this, and I'll complete the Keith Hernandez story. And he'd tell you that was true if he were here today.
Well, this is almost untrue. Spike Owen, who has led the league in fielding 2 of the last 3 years, makes an error. And the Mets have their base runner on with a second error made by Montreal. There's Keith.
Number 17. Kevin Elster now the batter. Kevin flied to center and deep his first time up.
We're going to bring that fella up and have him verify the story. I think he would.
It was September, a cold and rainy night in Philadelphia, and Bob Gibson is going past the rookie Keith Hernandez, who had been with the Cardinals for a week, 1974. And Keith said, "Hey, Bob, while you're up there, bring me some coffee, will you?" Asking Bob Gibson to get a rookie coffee is not the way to endear yourself to Gibson. Well, Gibson, after a few choice words and telling Hernandez exactly what department he belongs in, straighten out the situation, and Keith didn't ask any of the older guys to bring them some coffee.
It was a bad
anymore
choice.
after that.
He could have asked some of the older guys, and they might have done it, but not Bob.
Not Gibson. And it gets by Fletcher. Pacoda may try for third. He rounded second and elected to hold there. The second wild pitch of the game thrown by Chris Haney, and the Mets with a chance to tie it.
First wild pitch set up a RBI for Johnson, I should say, for Gallagher on a sac fly, and now this one will move a runner in scoring position. Fletcher can't find the pitch. Looking for it now. He knows it's behind him. He goes after it. Pacoda makes a wide turn and holds.
Tom Reynolds taking over for Buck Rogers last year in June. And he's telling Delino to Shields to stop the runner at second. You could read his lips. Stop him, he said. 1-0 to Elster. Outside, ball 2, 2-0.
Shields is over near second base, but very deep. There is a hole there in right center field for Elster, and that pitch outside where Elster could handle it and hit it to right.
Of course, when Kevin goes the other way, he rarely hits the ball on the ground.
Pops it up.
He lifts it the other way. On the outside corner, strike 1, 2-1. Mets traded for shortstop Dick Schofield before the game. He will be in uniform tomorrow night. And DeShields covers second, and Haney steps off.
He played with his daddy.
in 1968. Matter of fact, Dick Schofield played for 7 major league teams. Change up, misses, ball 3, 3-1.
1960, he played for the Pittsburgh Pirates and finished the season the last month taking over for Dick Grote, who had his arm broken. Grote ended up as the MVP that year, and of course 1960, the year that Pittsburgh beat the Yankees in the World Series on that dramatic home run by Bill Mazeroski, the only World Series to end on a home run.
Ground ball right side. DeShields drops it, picks it up, and throws him out. Pacoda moving to third base. DeShields with 27 errors last year as a second baseman, led all major league second basemen.
He's had an error in this series. This ball in the heel of the glove. He takes his eye off it, but manages to pick it up in time to get the out.
Tom Runnels telling third baseman Brett Barbery to play up in case Todd Hundley wants to bunt again. He did that the last time up and did it successfully and scored the only Met run of the game. Ball 1, 1-0 with 2 outs and Brett Saberhagen on deck. You wonder if Haney is thinking about pitching around Hundley, but he's already thrown 2 wild pitches. So Pacoda at third, alert for that. Fly ball center field, and that should do it. So the fly ball, ponchos are out. It was raining before game time. This game delayed by about 3 minutes. But it has been dry throughout the game. Brett Saberhagen, who gave up a 2-run home run to Ivan Calderon in the first inning, has given up only that hit. He has walked 2. He has hit a batter. He has struck out 6. And the batter that he hit was Darren Fletcher in the second inning.
Hit him on a 3-2 pitch.
Curve almost hit him again. 1-1 to Fletcher. Two-time Cy Young Award winner Brett Saberhagen. He won the Cy Young Award in '85 and '89 for the Royals. Diving is Randolph. It's off the heel of his glove, and Fletcher has an infield hit. Only the second Expo hit as Willie Randolph got to the ball, but it bounces out of his glove.
Almost turns in an outstanding play right here, but ball hits in the heel of the glove, then bounces away.
Willie thought he had it. Watch the ball bounce away, and Willie look in his glove. See, he's looking there in the glove. He thought maybe he had it, but it bounced away, and Fletcher is at first to lead off the 5th inning. And the batter Spike Owen, who on a hit-and-run play lined to left fielder Dave Gallagher the last time up, and Gallagher doubled off Fletcher at first base. Low, ball 1.
Mets shade Spike Owen as a right-hand batter, shade him over toward left field, and when you do that, the pitcher usually pitches away so that he'll hit it away and hit into the defense.
That's what he did the last time up, lining to Gallagher and left.
One of your old buddies, Harry the Hat Walker, hit everything to left field. That's the way we used to pitch him. High and outside fastballs, let him hit the ball where he wanted to. Hopefully he'd hit it in the air. He didn't have the kind of power to hit it out of the ballpark.
Harry hit it where he wanted to in 1946. He led the National League in hitting.
Only player in the National League to lead the league in hitting for 2 different teams. He was traded during the season from the Cardinals to the Phillies. Still led the league in hitting.
Dale Alexander did the same
American
thing
League
back in 1931, and the curve has scooted foul past Eddie Murray at first base. So there he gets the curveball, the slower pitch, and he pulls it foul.
Tried to pull that ball to go against the defense. He's a good professional player.
You know, if you're a hitter, and I remember Rusty Staub used to talk about this a lot. If you're a hitter and you look at the defense, you got a pretty good idea, especially if you're the type of hitter as Owen is. You got a pretty good idea how they're going to pitch you. Defense right there. You're not going to get a lot of slow pitches. Not too many change-ups, not too many curveballs. For the most part, fastballs. And he gets one there, and it's strike 3 right on the corner. Strikeout number 7 for Saberhagen. 1 out.
Well, he should have been listening, because this is a fastball. That is powered right on through for the 7th strikeout.
Number 42, Chris.
Tom Runnels flashing signs to Jerry Manuel, the third base coach, who was giving the signs to Fletcher at first base manually.
I like that.
Haney will be bunting, and he does. Saberhagen will go to second for 1. The throw to first. Safe. Randolph covering. Almost a nifty 1-6-4 double play. 2 outs.
A little evidence about the arm of Kevin Elster right there. If you've been wondering about his ability to throw the ball hard, he does not throw it hard here, and it's in the dirt. And that is why the Mets have traded for Schofield. Now watch his throw to first base. He gets it away quickly, but nothing on it. So that is what the Mets are worried about.
Dick Schofield coming from the California Angels. And you're right, Ralph, that throw had nothing on it. It was on line, but not a lot of juice as Delino DeShields swings and misses. 0-1 to Delino. 2-1 Expos here in the 5th. You saw the curveball given to DeShields, and Elster with the closed mouth. That meant if the runner runs, I'll take it. But with Haney on at first base, it's doubtful the Expo pitcher will be going. Elster covers on anybody running, and this one grounded the other way. And Bonilla's throw, as Haney goes to third base, is late. So DeShields with Expo hit number 3 as he grounds one through on the right side.
Well, a good job by Bonilla as he throws the ball to the cutoff man, and when DeShields doesn't make a big turn, the cutoff man Elster lets it go through to third, even though they can't get him at third. But a very accurate and a good throw by Bonilla on that throw across the diamond.
So if you're the catcher now and the runner at first base runs with the runner at third, normally you would look him back, but with the pitcher at third base, there's no need to look him back. And Todd Hundley looking over to Barry Foote to see what he wants him to do. Brett Barbary, the third baseman, is the batter. Barry Foote calls pitch outs, and he also calls a pitcher's throw to first base. Fastball for a strike. Barbary is 0 for 2. He is flied out and struck out. 2-1 Expos here in the 5th. Obviously no balk because Saberhagen broke with the pitching rubber. You can fake to second or third, but not to first or home. Inside, ball 1, 1-1. It's like a breaking ball here. 1-1 to Barbary. Nope, he got the fastball. Hundley wants to talk to Saberhagen. They could be using pumps instead of the number of fingers that Saberhagen puts down, just the number of times the fingers go down. Instead of counting the fingers, just count the number of pumps he flashes.
One pump could be fastball, 2 pumps a curve.
Inside, Barbary skipping out of the way. It's 3 balls and a strike to Brett Barbary. Yeah, that's a real switch hitter's helmet right there. You have flaps on both sides.
Second Montreal player to hit home runs from both sides of the plate, Barbary.
Change up. So with the count 3 balls, 2 strikes, Eddie Murray will move behind DeShields at first base. 2 outs here in the 5th inning. DeShields, of course, will be running. Nope, he held up, says third base umpire Paul Runge. So Barbary walks. That's walk number 3 given up by Saberhagen, and now the dangerous Ivan Calderon is the batter. He homered in the 1st inning. Bases loaded, 2 outs. Calderon's first home run of this year. He had 19 last year. Low, ball 1. Chris Haney, the pitcher, is at third base. Over at second, Delino to Shields, and third baseman Brett Barbary, the runner, at first. 2-1 Montreal here in the 5th inning. The Expos with the bases loaded and 2 outs. 1-0 on Ivan Calderon. Ball 2.
One career Grand Slam home run, as opposed to Eddie Murray, who has 15 Grand Slam home runs. He's the leader. Active players.
Inside, and you could see there Hundley to the outside corner, and Saberhagen's pitch low and in to Calderon. So Saberhagen all over the place.
Watch Hundley. He has trouble with this ball. He's shifting away and it goes back inside. He's lucky to get the glove on the ball to keep it there. And now Saberhagen in deep trouble.
And there's a strike. 3-1.
In his first start, he walked Pedro Guerrero with the bases loaded. Proved to be his undoing in the ball game.
Cardinals scoring 7 runs in 2 1/3. Lined up the middle, base hit. 1 run scores. Here comes DeShields. He'll score, and Johnson's throw is wide, and Saberhagen behind home plate as the Expos score another run on a throwing error by Howard Johnson. 5-1 Montreal on a sloppy throw by Johnson.
2 RBIs for Calderon, his 3rd and 4th in this game. He had earlier gotten Montreal on top with a 2-run home run. And here the 3-1 fastball hit up the middle. Johnson's going to elect to throw to third. He had the runner, Barbary, easily if he makes an accurate throw, but it's way off line. And as the ball gets away, Saberhagen backing up home was not backing up third. Not his fault. And another run scores.
Yeah, that's right. Saberhagen's in the right spot. It looked like Howard, when he came up with the ball, had home on his mind and then kind of threw the ball without pointing to third base. As Larry Walker takes a strike, and the curve, a nice stop by Hundley. 1-1. Let's take one more look at Johnson. Watch when he comes up with the ball. He looks like he wants to throw it home, and now just kind of scatters the ball to third base.
He saw he had no play at the plate, so he changes his direction, throws without having his body in a line with third, and the ball tails away.
So a misdirection works in football. Don Shula, one of the innovators in that, but not in baseball. As the count now is 1-2 to Larry Walker. 5-1 Expos. Lined hard to left center, and it's going to fall. Calderon scores, and it's now 6-1 Montreal as Walker rifles a double to left.
Well, if you were with us earlier, you can go back to the fact that the Mets were unable to make that double play when Elster's throw was a weak throw to first. It opened up the inning, and all these runs would not have scored if that double play had been made. There was no error on the plays. They got an out, but they should have had a double play on the bunt play by Chris Haney and didn't get it. So it opened up the inning, and now the Expos have exploded for 4 runs here in the 5th, and they now lead 6-1.
Following that fielder's choice, DeShields singled, Barbary walked, Calderon singled on a 3-1 pitch, and the curve to Tim Wallach is low. And then now Larry Walker has doubled. One and 0 to Wallach. Ball 2, 2-0. Curveball for a strike. 2-1 to Tim Wallach, the Montreal Expos first baseman. Outside, ball 3.
In this series, Montreal has taken advantage of their scoring chances just about every chance they've had.
Fouled out of play. 3 balls, 2 strikes to Wallach.
There's the double play situation that we were talking about. The bunt by Haney is right back to Saberhagen. They got an easy shot at second. Elster takes the throw, but his throw to first for the double play is a weak throw in the dirt, and Haney beats the play, and that opened up the inning.
Expos have scored 4 times so far, and Wallach fouls one off. In that trade, Dick Schofield coming to the Mets from California for Julio Valera and a minor league player to be named later.
Can't fault Elster, as he has been bothered by that sore arm, the arm that was operated on.
Wallach walks, and now the Expos have batted around as pitching coach Mel Stottlemyre is out to talk to Saberhagen. And Mark Dewey continues to throw for the Mets. Barry Foote and Jeff Torborg. And the reason they're looking at their lineup, the pitcher is scheduled to lead off the bottom of the 5th inning. Now Torborg would prefer for Saberhagen to finish this inning. And if he can't finish, if another hit, for instance, or somebody else gets on base, in all probability a double switch will be made when Dewey comes in the game. The batter is Marquise Grissom. He's the 9th Expo to hit in this game, or in this inning. Curve is low, ball 1. Line drive, base hit, right center. Walker scores. Wallach stops at second, and now it's 7-1 Montreal. And a double switch will be employed right here.
Well, the big hit in this ball game, the single by Calderon to drive in 2 runs, another scoring on the air. And if you recall, he was behind Calderon 3-0. He got a 3-1 strike and then came in with a fastball, and Calderon singled off the fastball to drive in the 2 and another scoring. And here again, he's behind the hitter, missing with a curve, and the fastball is hit for the base hit. And that'll be all for Saberhagen.
All 7 runs are earned, as Saberhagen, who gave up 7 earned runs his first time out and 2 1/3, has given up 7 so far in this game. We'll be right back to see how Mark Dewey does right after this from Shell. O'Brien comes in to catch, and Mark Dewey is on the mound.
Dewey with a 10.38 ERA, appearing in his 3rd ball game. He's worked 2 against the Cardinals. 1 was good, a 1-2-3 inning as he retired the side in order. The other, as you can tell, was not that good.
Charlie O'Brien batting in the 9th slot, and Mark Dewey will hit 8 as the first batter, Darren Fletcher, the catcher of the Expos, takes strike 1. Fouled away. 0-2 to Darren Fletcher. 7-1 Expos here in the 5th inning. Fouled away. Dewey, formerly with the San Francisco Giants, has an assortment of pitches that includes 2 types of split fingers. He throws a split finger change and a hard split finger fastball. And I asked him before the game, I said, have you incurred any shoulder problems on the hard split finger? And he said, you know, Roger Craig asked me the same thing. Roger, the manager of the Giants, and he told Roger no. A lot of the Giant pitchers coming up with sore arms, and a lot of people attributing it to split finger fastballs. Roger, the guru of the splitter. 1-2 now to Fletcher, and there was the splitter. It's outside, ball 2.
Roger didn't invent the pitch, but he certainly taught it well. Fellow named Martin, Freddie Martin, that pitched for the Cardinals, was the first one that we know of with it.
Nice play, Murray. Over to Dewey for the 3rd out. Well, the Expos, like tourists at an exhibition, score 5 times in the 5th and lead 7-1. We go to the bottom of the 5th after this from Canada Tourism. With that strained left hamstring, we'll have to wait until tomorrow to find out. And back in for the play-by-play, here's Ralph.
Okay, and Charlie O'Brien, the leadoff batter for the Mets. Thank you, Tim. Expos 7 runs on 6 hits. Mets 1 run on 3. Tom Reynolds keeping that lineup guard as O'Brien bats for the first time in this game, replacing Todd Huntley when they made the double switch for the new pitcher, Mark Dewey. Ryan hitting .333 so far. His 2 hits have been doubles. And the count now 2-1 as Chris Haney works, trying to pick up his first game of the year on the winning side. He misses being a rookie by 9 days. And this year, the first year he's been on the major league roster on opening day for Montreal. And that pitch a ball, and it's 3-1. So we mentioned at the top of the show that he has never won outside of Canada. His road record 0-5. Good chance here to break through, as a 3-1 pitch is in for a called strike. 3-2 the count to Charlie O'Brien, the catcher, and the pitch is ball 4. So the Mets get a base runner.
Take a look at the Toyota American League scoreboard. 5-0. Yankees on top of Detroit. The Yankees going into today's game were 4-0. Cleveland over Boston 2-1. That's the first game of a doubleheader. Second game later. Toronto over Baltimore. They've yet to be beaten. That game in the 5th inning. Chicago at Oakland, Milwaukee at California, Kansas City at Seattle, Texas at Minnesota this evening.
Ground ball should be a double play. Spike Owen will handle it himself, and Dave Gallagher grounds into a double play after driving in the only run for the Mets with a sac fly. He is now 0 for 2 and 2 men away. Incidentally, Tim, after that 19-inning game in Cleveland, Boston winning the game in 19 innings, and a doubleheader scheduled today, the only doubleheader scheduled this year in the major leagues, they had to fly in Clemens to pitch the second game of that series. They used up so many pitchers in that long night game or day-night game.
Yeah, Roger had gone back, we understand, had gone back to Boston for their opener. I think it was their opener. The Red Sox opened at Yankee Stadium.
And he had to be flown into Cleveland so he could pitch in the second game of that scheduled doubleheader. Strike 2 the count to Willie Randolph, who has a base hit and 2 times up. 1 ball, 2 strikes.
It would have been the opener for Roger Clemens and the Red Sox tomorrow afternoon against Baltimore. As it is, Clemens pitching the second game of the doubleheader.
Clemens, a losing pitcher, opening day at Yankee Stadium. Only man in the history of baseball to strike out 20 batters in a 9-inning game. 1-2 pitch. 2-2. Clemens struck out 20 Seattle ball players to break a record held by Tom Seaver and Steve Carlton.
You know the amazing thing in that game? He walked no one. 20 strikeouts and no walks in one game. That's remarkable.
That's a lot of strikes. Grounded foul. The count stays at 2 balls and 2 strikes. Seaver had been the only pitcher to strike out 19 and win a game. Carlton struck out 19 while losing to the Mets in 1969. Swoboda with 2 home runs in that game to beat him. And the catcher in that game, Tim McCarver.
Blame me, right?
It's your fault. You called the wrong pitch.
23 years later.
Here's the 2-2 pitch. Cold foul. It's out of play.
We should have used the Bob Gibson adage. He said he used to say, if a guy's going to hit a home run against you, walk him.
Two balls, 2 strikes as Randolph bats with 2 men out. Bottom half of the 5th inning. And it's ball 3, 3-2. David Cohn in the last game of the season against the Phillies became a 19 strikeout winner. So he joins Carlton and Seaver in that department. High fly ball to deep left, might go. Way back, going, gone, goodbye. Willie Randolph with his first home run as a New York Met. And now the batter, Bobby Bonilla, and he takes the first pitch for strike 1.
Looked like a high fastball. Yep. And Willie, of course, sitting on it. No way Haney wants to walk him, and Willie is home run.
And this would head out to deep left field, but foul. And Bonilla, who has 2 home runs this year, comes back with a 2-strike count.
Here it is one more time. One of the big home runs that Willie Randolph had against the Mets a right field home run July 21st in 1989, an opposite field, and that did the Mets in. Real turning point in that season.
During the Mets season down, it was Don Ossie on the mound for the Mets in that game in the 9th inning. Had only 2 home runs that year. It was his first home run ever when he hit that ball in '89 in the National League. Now his first home run on the Mets, and this ball hit out the deep left field, but it will be a foul ball, and it's caught by Calderon in foul territory, and Bonilla is out. So the Mets get 1 run on the base hit and home run by Willie Randolph, and the score at the end of 5. It is the Expos 7, the Mets 2, and Montreal leading by a score of 7-2. And Mark Dewey replacing Saberhagen with a count of 2 balls and no strikes, working to the shortstop, Spike Owen. Owen is 0 for 2 in the game. And Dewey back with the sinking fastball for ball 3. 3 balls, no strikes. And there's a strike. 3-1. Montreal Expos played their first game ever in 1969 right here at Shea Stadium. They won the ball game by a score of 11-10, and this one under the glove. And Owen trying for 2, but he has throw a good one, and he's out. Spike Owen trying to run the air into a 2-base error, and he is thrown out by Bobby Bonilla on a fine throw, his 2nd assist.
So Eddie Murray doesn't stay down. The ball goes under his glove, and it wasn't hit that hard, and Spike Owen, a very tentative Eddie Murray going after that ball, and Spike Owen tries to go to second base, and Bobby Bonilla gets his 2nd assist of the season.
Tag made by Kevin Elster, and that'll bring up the pitcher Chris Haney. Haney is 0 for 2. We got a pinch hitter for the pitcher. It's Eric Bullock. He fouls off the pitch, and it's strike 2. So Bullock batting for the pitcher Chris Haney. Haney will leave the ball game on the winning side with a 7-2 lead.
It's like spring training for Chris Haney, his first start. Pitch limit, very important to a lot of managers and pitching coaches at this time of year. So Tom Runnels figuring that's enough for Haney.
Bullock has not had an official at bat this year as he takes outside. 2 balls and 2 strikes.
Plus, you want to get your bullpen in there too and give them some work.
Bullock was not on the 25-man roster. He was invited to spring training, and he has made the club, and that's ball 3. He was in 73 games for Montreal last year and hit .222 with 1 home run. And the 3-2 pitch hit on the ground to Randolph, the second baseman, and Bullock is out. So 2 men away.
Rob, Mark Dewey, I was talking about him earlier. He is staying at a hotel with his wife and 2-month-old baby. But he already has an apartment in Tidewater. He went there initially. He came up last weekend to pitch in that Yankee game, and then he went to St. Louis, but he had already had his apartment at Tidewater, and here he is staying in New York, paying rent on an apartment in Tidewater.
Pretty long commute.
Yeah.
Delano DeShields a batter. Delano 1 for 1 with 2 walks in the game and 2 runs scored, and he takes that pitch for ball 2. 2 balls and no strikes. And it's 3-0. Lionel DeShields broke in with the Montreal Expos 2 years ago, was runner-up as Rookie of the Year, and he started his career with a 4-hit day. First Montreal Expo player to get 4 hits in the opening day game since Mac Jones did it in the early '60s. So he walks for the 3rd time That'll bring up Brett Barberie.
Couldn't have been in the early 60s unless he was with the Montreal Royals, but maybe the late 50s.
That's right, or late 60s. 69 is
69, their first year. So Montreal Royals for years and years. I forget the last year that they played. I think it was 59 was the last year the Royals were in the International League. I believe that's right.
Brooklyn Dodger franchise for many, many years.
Tommy Lasorda won 129 games for that organization. Matter of fact, Tommy holds the International League record for wins. It's not a record. You'd rather hold the Major League record for wins, not International League record.
That only means you spend a lot of time in the minors.
Right.
The Shields a threat to steal. He does not go, and Barberie takes for ball one. Barberie 0 for 2 in the game and 2 for 10 in this series. One ball, no strikes.
Tommy Lasorda's Dodgers, by the way, playing in San Diego. Greg Harris for the Padres. Ramon Martinez.
There goes a runner. A pitch out. The throw by O'Brien perfect. And DeShields is out. And that will end the inning. So no runs, no hits in there, and no one left on base to score at the end of 5.5 innings. The Expos 7, the Mets 2, and here's a word from
by Charlie O'Brien right there. Nails DeShields.
So for the Mets, and they're trailing 7-2. It'll be a new pitcher for Montreal. Bill Sampson will take over.
Sampson with one appearance this year, and he's worked 2 2/3 innings.
Last year he was 9-5 with 8 game starts for Montreal. Also pitched at Indianapolis, where he was 4-0 in 7 game starts. And his first batter will be Howard Johnson, who is 0 for 2 in this game. Mets 2 runs on 4 hits, and the fastball a called strike. Chris Haney, the pitcher record on the winning side, worked the first 5, gave up 2 runs on 4 hits while striking out 2 and walking 2. If he wins this ball game, it will be his first win ever in the United States as a major league pitcher. And the fastball, 1 ball, 1 strike. Montreal acquired Sampson's contract in the major league draft when he was not protected on a major league roster. He was taken off the Pittsburgh Pirate roster, and a hard ground ball to Owen, the shortstop. And Johnson is out. 1 away, and that'll bring up Eddie Murray, who is 0 for 2. Remember, when you're having good times with good friends, drink responsibly, because friends know when to say when. Reminder from your friends at Budweiser. Murray has popped to second and flied out the deep center in his 2 appearances. He's 2 for 8 in this series. And he hits it in the air to left. Calderon, the left fielder. 2 men out. Mets came into this game with a team batting average of .230. They have not hit the ball well at all, and they have been outscored 47-24 so far this season. They have had 4 home runs, none of them by Eddie Murray, who's looking for his first. He has 398 in his major league career, and the breaking ball for ball 1. Second to Dave Winfield among active players in home runs. Winfield with 406. And the pitch back to Picada, grounded to the third baseman Barberie, and the Mets go out in order here in the 6th. The score at the end of 6. The Expos 7, the Mets 2, and here's a word from your tri-state Toyota dealer. Mr. Tim McCarver.
Matter of fact, I parked there when we went on the road. We used to keep our cars in center field. Luby Veal was the groundkeeper. He later went on to Cincinnati and to Chicago. I think Luby's still in Chicago, but Luby used to take care of our cars when the team was on the road. Well, the Mets were 2-2 on the road, but they've returned. They have returned to Shea Stadium, and they are 0-2 and losing in this their third game 7-2.
You just saw the hand warmer that Bobby Bonilla had attached to his belt out in the outfield. That makes it illegal. He was out of uniform, and the umpires finally got to him in the third game of the series.
Oh, he had it the first two games?
Yeah, he's been using it, and it's illegal.
Yeah, here he is.
He's out of uniform, so they make him take it off. Finally got to him as he tried to keep his hands warm on this cool day. Got to do it the old-fashioned way.
Earn it.
Earn it.
One out here in the seventh. Ivan Calderon has been the hitting star in this game. He has driven in 4. He did it with a home run in the first inning, a 2-run shot off Brett Saberhagen, and then with the bases loaded in the 5th, he drove in 2. So Calderon, who had driven in only 2 runs coming into the game, has 4 RBIs. It's 7-2 Montreal and 1-1 to Ivan Calderon. Outside from Mark Dewey, who has done a good job in relief of Brett Saberhagen. 2 balls and a strike now. Popped up. Kevin Elster down with the glasses. That's right. The sun is peeking through. 2 outs here in the 7th. And speaking of earning it.
Well, if you've been betting on an upturn, you got it. Dow Jones up 30.4 as of the Friday close on our Shell Financial Update. S&P 500's up 3.65. And gold up $1.60. Silver up 2 cents. Everything is up with the Mets.
Mets are down 7-2. They have yet to win a home game this year. Larry Walker has doubled in a run in the 5th inning. He's 1 for 3. One and 1 to Walker. Splitter is low. 2 balls and a strike.
Well, Montreal might have found themselves their homegrown star in Larry Walker.
From Vancouver, only the 5th Canadian to play for the Expos. Chops one fair. Foul it is. Eddie Murray, it looked like that ball skipped back over the bag. Ball taking a twisting hop. But it's a foul ball. 2-2.
Started foul, but it does look like it almost came back, but evidently not. Did he go over the bag?
No.
Oh, it's close.
See, that's first base umpire Jim Quick's call. He called it correctly, but it was close. Popped up left side. Elster running Pacoda off, and it's Elster who makes the play. The Expos down in order, but it hadn't been here yet. The Mets shut out on Friday 4-0. They lost yesterday 9-1. They trail here 7-2. Kevin Elster only 3 for 16 on the year. Outside from Bill Sampson. Sampson came in the 6th inning. He retired the Mets in order. Should the Expos hold on, Chris Haney will win his first game of the year. 1-0 to Elster. Popped up. Shortstop Spike Owen makes the play. 1 out. So that's 4 in a row retired by Sampson.
Well, Montreal has to be happy with what's happened here in New York. If they win the day, they will have won 4 straight, and they're going home for their home opener in Montreal. Should sell some tickets up there.
Expos opening against Pittsburgh tomorrow night. Then they're off on Tuesday and play the Pirates Wednesday night and Thursday afternoon as Darryl Boston pinch hits for Mark Dewey, the pitcher. Dewey, a good job. He came in the 5th inning with 2 outs and pitched 2 1/3 innings of scoreless ball. Nothing in 2 now to Darryl Boston. Darryl with a big triple in yesterday's game. I think that Friday's game. That was a game in which the Mets were shut out. Their only shutout of the season. High, ball 1, 1-2.
A triple by Boston, his first hit of the year.
Slider lifted foul. Still 1-2 to Darryl Boston. 7-2. Expos on top of the Mets here in the 7th. Outside, 2-2. Boston jammed and a little dunker into left field. So Darryl Boston jammed on the pitch, slices one toward left, and it drops in there.
Checking out the Macy's National League scoreboard, Pittsburgh leading Philadelphia 6-1, bottom of the 7th inning. St. Louis 1, Chicago nothing, top of the 6th. Atlanta 2, San Francisco nothing, bottom of the 4th. Houston 2, Cincinnati nothing, bottom of the 4th. And later on, the Dodgers against San Diego. Well, Boston gets a broken bat jammer as he hits it off the trademark, bloops it into left field, and he is on with his 2nd hit of the year. That's getting their 5th hit of the game and first off Sampson.
Mackey Sasser will now be the pinch hitter for Charlie O'Brien. With 1 out and 1 on, Jeff Torborg figuring that the Mets won't have too many opportunities to score. You better take advantage of it. So Mackey Sasser will be the pinch hitter for Charlie O'Brien. And the infielders coming in for the glasses as the sun is poking through. And sure enough, once they get the glasses, the sun goes back in. Bill Landrum warming for the Expos. You'll remember Landrum caused a stir, not through his fault, this spring by being released from the Pittsburgh Pirates. He had a salary of $1,700,000. The Pirates only had to pay a quarter of his salary, and he hooked on with the Expos. And I believe he is filing a grievance. Is that not correct?
That is correct.
Mackey Sasser fouls it away, 0-1.
He is filing a grievance which states that he should not have been released by the Pittsburgh Pirates for reasons of money. That is in the agreement between the ball players and the major league owners. Lander led Pittsburgh in saves last year.
Grounder to second, and a 4-6-3 double play ends the inning. So Sasser grounds into a double play, and the Mets go down with nary a whimper in the 7th. It's still 7-2 Montreal, and we're back after this from Mobile. Tim 0 for 2 today. A dreadful year last year, but a guy who is a real horse. He has never been on the disabled list. He has played over 1,600 games. That's the most by any active player for one team. And he takes a breaking ball outside from Jeff Ennis. Wallach, the Expo leader in games played, Also in at-bats, RBIs, strikeouts. He's grounded to the most double plays by any Expo batter. 1-1 to Tim Wallach.
195 career home runs.
Waves at the breaking ball. 1-2 to Tim. Montreal with 2 in the first inning, a two-run home run by Ivan Calderon, and then they struck for 5 in the 5th inning. The Mets scoring 1 in the 3rd, and Willie Randolph's first home run in the 5th inning. It's 7-2 Montreal. Still 1-2 to Wallach. Jeff Ennis to be married at the end of the season. And he gets Tim Wallach with the breaking ball. So 1 out here in the 8th. This copyrighted telecast is authorized under television rights granted by Sterling Doubleday Enterprises LP solely for the entertainment of our audience. Any publication, reproduction, or use of the pictures, descriptions, and accounts of this game without the express written consent of Sterling Doubleday Enterprises LP and WWOR TV is prohibited. Any commercial or other use of the program, such as by charging admission for its showing, likewise prohibited. A strike to Marquise Grissom. Fly ball, shallow center field. Johnson broke to his right, and now he can't get to it. Howard Johnson appeared to have lost that ball in the sun. It's a Texas League single for Marquise Grissom.
Well, during the daytime, center field here in this ballpark, as you look at Junior Noboa, really a tough center field to play. Willie Mays said it was the hardest field that he had ever played in, which is
told me that.
Testimony in itself. That ball, as Johnson broke back, drops in front. Would have been a base hit anyway. I don't think Johnson had any chance at all, even if he'd gotten a perfect jump.
Darren Fletcher, the catcher, is the batter. Grissom obviously a threat to steal. He has not stolen a base this year, but he led the National League in stolen bases last year with 76. Not running, and the fastball is outside. Ball 1. We mentioned that Ennis would be married this winter, and his fiancee Kelly is a world-class sprinter. I am not sure whether she is eligible for the Olympics, but she is an Olympic class sprinter. The trials were last year, and I am not sure whether she is eligible this year or not, but I will ask Jeff that for tomorrow night's broadcast. And we'll be on the air at 7:30 tomorrow night. Sure you'll be tuning in just to hear that answer, whether Kelly is a world-class sprinter or not. 2 balls and no strikes to Darren Fletcher.
She'd have to run that fast to catch Ennis. Ennis with his impression of Frank Cashin at the welcome home dinner last night, a big success.
Frank Cashin to be honored by the New York Sports Commission on Tuesday at a big dinner at Avery Fisher Hall in Manhattan. There goes Grissom. The fastball's a strike. The throw is low, and Grissom has his first stolen base of the year. Make that stolen base number 4 for Grissom.
He did not have one coming into this series, but he's had 4 in this series against the Mets. And as Tim pointed out, he led the National League in stolen bases last year with 76. Gets a good jump. The throw in the dirt, he had the play beat.
So Grissom at second with one out. It's 3 balls and no strikes to Fletcher, and he's swinging, and Murray makes the play. Eddie Murray. It's funny how the game works. Had Grissom not stolen second base, that ball's into right field for a hit with Murray holding Grissom on.
And checking out the Toyota American League scoreboard, the Yankees leading Detroit 5-0 in the bottom of the 7th. The Yankees have yet to lose this year. Cleveland 2, they defeated Boston 2-1, this time in 9 innings. Last night they lost in 19. First of 2 there. It's Toronto 2, Baltimore 1, bottom of the 6th. Later on, Chicago and Oakland, Milwaukee and California, Kansas City and Seattle and Texas against Minnesota.
Curveball to Spike Owen is inside.
I think it's worth mentioning again, the only scheduled doubleheader in the major leagues this year being played right now in Cleveland. The Red Sox there.
Low to Owen. 2 balls and no strikes. And it gets by Sasser, and Grissom scores. This has been a dreadful series for the Mets, defensively and offensively.
Jeff Torborg, as you see him there in your picture, stating that the Mets are just tired. They have not had a day off in a long time and won't have for several more games. I don't really think that's a good excuse. That's being scored as a pass ball.
No, that's, you know, that dog won't hunt.
No,
the 7th game of the season.
Spring training games, even though you play every day, not that important.
Back to Ennis. And he throws to Murray. The Expos with another run. Because that was a pass ball, that run is not earned against Ennis. It's 8-2 Expos. Bill Landrum's second appearance as the leadoff batter. Dave Gallagher is the hitter. Gallagher 0 for 2. He did drive in a run with a sacrifice fly in the 3rd inning. 8-2 Montreal, and the fastball for a strike. 1-1. Landrum 17 saves, leading the Pittsburgh Pirates last year, and his contention as far as the contract is concerned is that, hey, he's healthy. And we're seeing more and more of that. The middle income, and I say middle income because $1.7 million is a middle income player now. Those guys are being dropped, and if a team can do without them, then they do exactly that. And that's why Pittsburgh released Landrum and forced to pay only a quarter of their salary, of his salary. 1 and 2 to Gallagher. Landrum saying that, hey, you couldn't release me because of lack of performance. Season hasn't even opened. I'm healthy. So we will see how the arbitrator rules, to the letter of the contract, or will. I mean, a team's got to have the right to adjust their roster, though, right?
I would think so. But at the same time, it's written into the major league agreement with the ball players that they cannot be released. The players can't be released because of salary. It has to be because of performance.
2 and 2 to Dave Gallagher. Fly ball, center field. Grissom drifting back, 1 out. Only final in the National League. The Pittsburgh Pirates beat the Philadelphia Phillies. The Pirates 5-1. They swept the Phillies. And the Phillies moving into town tomorrow night for 3 night games. 7:40 for all 3 games. We're on the air tomorrow night and Tuesday night. Sid Fernandez, Tommy Green tomorrow night. 1-1 now to Willie Randolph. And the curve grounded left side. Nice play, Barbary. 2 outs. Little cue shot towards short. Barbary again. Throws it wide at first base, and Bonilla hustling the second base as Wallach picks it up, kicks it, so it's going to be a throwing error on Brett Barbary, the third baseman. That's his second error of the ball game.
Makes a good play coming up with the ball. A little squibbler off to the shortstop side. He cuts over, makes the play, and then throws high to first base, and Wallach unable to haul it in. And when the ball gets away, Bonilla hustling all the way, makes the turn and goes down to second.
Barbary really appeared to have more time than he thought he had. He hurried to throw. It was a strong throw, but high. So the third Expo error the Mets have committed to. Howard Johnson now the batter. Hojo looking for his first hit. He has grounded out 3 times. How's that for unusual?
That's really unusual.
Hojo grounded out 3 times.
He grounds out less than anybody in the National League. His outs are fly ball outs.
High ball 1 to Johnson. A ball and no strikes to Hojo. 8-2. Expos on top here in the bottom of the 8th. Mets trying to avoid the sweep. But it will take late inning thunder to do that. 1-1 to Johnson. Inside, ball 2. 2 balls and a strike. Hour and a half to get there. They went to the wrong hotel, and that's going bad. Shallow center field. Marquise Grissom there, and he makes the catch. The Mets fail to score.
In this ball game, Franco not usually used in a situation like this. This is his second inning of work.
In 4 2/3 innings. It's 8-2 Expos, and Rick Cerrone, who last year in game 2 of the season hit a home run off Roger McDowell, who was then of the Phillies, that tied the game, and it was won by Hubie Brooks in the 10th inning. And Rick, his first plate appearance, and he fouls it off. 0-2 to the former Met. And I guess you can add in the blanks. Former a lot of teams. Several times. First time with the Expos. Loaded. Grounded back to Franco, and John knocks it down and throws him out. 1 out. Delino to Shields now the batter. That home run coming shortly after I made a comment that there's no way that Cerrone should be hitting.
That's right, you did, didn't you? Against a right-hand pitcher in that situation.
You don't have to agree with me now. You're bringing it up. I'm bringing it up, and you're confirming it a year later.
Well, you brought it up.
You're supposed to console me, though. Supposed to be sympathetic.
Well, I think I agreed with you in that case.
What do you mean you think? I know you did.
No, I just think. I'm not positive.
Against Roger McDowell, a pinch hit home run against Roger. Before, of course, we had all the stats and figures, and were we ever dead wrong? Yes. Delino going with the shaved head this year. No hair dryer expense, at least.
Saves money on combs that way.
Combs, brushes, all of the accoutrements of the coiffing industries. One and one to Brett Barbary outside, ball 2.
Barbary, the man that moved Wallach from third base to first base. They made room for him as a third baseman. Wallach unhappy with that move. He had baseman.
3 balls, 2 strikes now to Got him. 2 strikeouts for Franco in the inning as Murray fouls it off.
Plays a clarinet and saxophone and is an outstanding musician. His father, a great pianist in San Francisco, a jazz pianist, and he's got a background in music. Can throw hard.
Good curveball too. He had 20 saves at Albuquerque last year. Cincinnati with Tim Belcher, and obviously never donned a Cincinnati Reds uniform. He was traded before spring. Grounded, foul ball. 2 to Murray. Outside, ball 3. Kiner's Corner to follow the game this afternoon, and an old friend will be joining Ralph in the studios, a guy who's been there before, as Murray goes down on strikes.
Gary Carter. I had a good reason, though. Glenn Close had sung the national anthem, and I was associating Glenn Close with baseball, and of course thinking of Lou Gehrig and the Pride of the Yankees and Gary Cooper, the star of that show, and that's why I called him Gary Cooper.
Well, I guess Gary's in for it again today. Glenn Close singing the national anthem on Friday.
Now that was 2 days ago.
Inside to Pacoda.
First.
Well, you remember your first show?
Yeah,
and your guest?
Sure, it was Casey Stengel in the Polo Grounds, and it was a good show. I was worried. First show I ever did on television. I was worried.
Pacoda walks. He's on there with 1 out.
Trying to, you know.
Well, the great Dodger announcer in the 9th, 8-2 Expos. Low, ball 1, 1-1. Dropped from the roster. That decision has not been made yet. Speculation as to Vince Coleman, a strained hamstring on his left leg. Jeff Torborg may elect to send a pitcher out. That's carrying 11 pitchers now. Little looper to right field. It could drop. Walker in, and it does drop. Pacoda will go to third base. Elster stops at second. That'll be hit number 6 for the Mets, but they got a long way to go. And Delino DeShields, or is it? Yep, it's DeShields. Be the pinch hitter for John Franco. Here in the 9th with 1 out. Mets trail by 6.
Third in the National League. Time, Keith Hernandez, the all-time high at 297.
And there's a strike. Chris Haney started the game. There's another strike. It's 3-2 now to Dave Magadan. There's 1 is an out right now, preferably 2. And Magadan down on strikes. First strikeout, make that the second strikeout for John Wetland. There are 2 out here in the 9th. He pinch hit into a double play in the 7th inning. 0-1 to Mackey. Good curveball for a strike.
That's a major league curveball right there. Big breaking curveball right here, right off the top, what we used to call a drop.
Another curve fouled off. Still 0-2 to Mackey Sasser. Little tapper towards second. Wallach will throw to Wetland for the 3rd out. So that'll do it.